meetup for the year 2023. And we are so glad to have you all on the call. And it couldn't get better. We're starting session with from Elizabeth, who's our community program manager from Microsoft, and she's gonna give us lots of insights and tips on Microsoft MVP and general learning, I would say, learning curve on that. And then our local master, well, it's a global master, Mr. Sanjeev, is going to give us a nice session on such a real-time use case, I would say. And yeah, without further ado, I will just pass it to Elizabeth. And you have any word, Golaknath and Sanjeev, please feel free to chip in, and then, yeah, then we can
Just
pass it
really
to.
quickly, so thankful to you and to Elizabeth for making time for us. I know it's getting up to be early morning there in Australia and New Zealand. So thank you so very much for being here for us. Equally, thanks a lot to everybody who's actually made time for us to be here, and especially little Pranav. We cannot feel more inspired seeing him here. And if this is the state of affairs, I think my retirement is assured. So thank you very much, and over to Golak.
Yeah, that's what I just want to say also. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining in this session, and especially thanks to Pranav, thanks to Elizabeth and Jiva. It's very late for you guys, but still you guys joined. And thanks again, everyone. And I won't take much time. Over to Elizabeth, maybe. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for taking the time today just to connect. I know this is the first meetup for the year, and it's a pleasure for me to also be able to connect with the community as well. So thank you so much for the opportunity. So I'm going to touch on around sort of, I guess, the relationship between personal branding and how it could really enhance your professional development as well. Because I work with the MVP program, which is the most valuable professional program. I know on the call today we've got Jiva, Sanjeev, Golaknath. Have I missed anyone? I haven't checked who else is online, but I think that's it. But we've got 3 amazing MVPs that really drive the community and support the community through sharing knowledge and helping others really solve problems through technology. And I think it's a fantastic program, and I'm really lucky to be working with all these wonderful leaders. So I'm kind of talking today on my reflections around what I see with personal brand and personal and professional development, and sort of how that kind of intertwines with the MVP program. So I guess the power of personal brand is really important, because essentially a brand is an asset that we own. And the really great thing about personal brand is that we have the power for others to control how others essentially perceive us. So what we put out there in the community, we have that control of how people perceive us as a community leader, or as a professional, or as an expert in a particular area or field, or something like that. So personal brand can definitely, I believe, open up opportunities in your career development, and in your in where you want to take it. So yeah, and as I said, like, what I've noticed with our community leaders is how they put themselves out there into the community. It really does come down to personal brand. And so we'll go through some examples of some community activities as well, and some best practices that our MVPs already do. And you'll start being able to sort of realize that there is quite a connection between personal brand and leadership, and where you want to take your career. So a question that I think is one to think about is, what do you want to be known for? Because I think personal brand can totally help you on that process to how you want others to perceive you. And you might want to be the next expert in Dynamics 365 or virtual agents, or whatever it is. yeah, personal brand can really help you get there and yeah, achieve those personal goals on that professional level, I guess as well. So the importance of personal brand. So I remember when I was younger, I was in college, and I didn't really have too much emphasis on um, sort of how I thought others would perceive me. I just kind of went through college, and I didn't really care so much what my resume looked like or how I was selling myself essentially. And I realized, so I started my career in fundraising actually. So I studied marketing and I sort of fell into charity. But I found it really challenging because for many years I couldn't get out of the not for profit sector. And I think on reflection now, and now having been in the tech space for about 4 or 5 years, but on reflection, how I helped myself make that transition, I had to um, sort of market myself essentially and create a personal brand that was different to, I guess, what my resume was currently looking like, where a lot of people might see my resume and be like, oh, she might not have the skills for this industry or whatever it is, but I wasn't really showcasing my top skills and how they were transferable. And so I think personal brand is really important with your professional development. Um, so when you invest in your personal brand, it's super important because it can really establish yourself as an expert in your field. And I think it can improve chances of getting new business opportunities, being promoted, maybe your dream job as well. And I think with personal brand, there's an element of trust that you can build with your audience or your customers or your potential employees as well, and with that network and your community essentially. So these are some things that I think are important when it comes to investing in your personal brand. So I guess we're looking at the relationship between personal brand and your professional development. And I do think that they come hand in hand. So when you sort of look at your professional development goals and why are these important, it really gives you an idea of your vision for the future. And when you've got your vision for the future, how you get there is maybe you can implement some tips around personal branding and what you need to do to be perceived as that vision, essentially. So you can hone in on your technical skills. So, we talked earlier in this call around certification. So that's one way by being certified is you can really build your reputation in an industry and a community as well. It will encourage you to be a better professional, I think, with personal brand. So if you want to get a certain dream job or pivot industries like I did, I think personal brand and goals can really help you sort of create that journey that you need to go on. And I think definitely when you invest in your personal brand, you're kind of creating almost like new skills, because you've got to look at sort of how can you communicate yourself in a new way, or when you invest in your personal brand, there's a few sort of techniques that you can implement, and you can then transition those skills to be better to manage your time better or be more productive in how you work, because there's I think a bit of a strategy around community leadership and how you sort of put yourself out there in the community. So I think there's some relationships there. So how to define and communicate your personal brand. So I've kind of got some tips that I've noticed that a lot of MVPs, although they don't set out to say, I want to have a personal brand, essentially I've just picked up, and maybe it's my marketing hat that I've put on, but I've kind of put together some tips that I've seen our leaders do. That if we really break it down, everyone's doing these similar things. So these are some tips maybe that you can implement if you want to position yourself in a certain way, or you want to you have a goal to reach a certain aspiration. Maybe these are some tips that can help you in developing your personal brand. So tip number one is determine your goals and your purpose. So what do you want to achieve? Is it a new job? Is it to position yourself as a thought leader? Is it to be a subject matter expert? So I think knowing where you want to be it is definitely that first place to start. And yeah, your goals will kind of be your North Star. So tip number 2 is define your audience. So when we think of personal brand, it's how are others perceiving us? And I think it's also looking at if you've got something to offer, and in this case, you might want to be a community leader. When we look at the MVP program, what are the needs of that community and how can you serve them? So we've got define your audience as well. I've just changed my earpods. Is it still connected? Can I get a yes or a no? Because I don't know.
Yeah, it's still
Okay,
connected.
perfect. They were falling out. Okay, and it just sounds a bit different. So I'm glad you can hear me. Okay, so tip number 3 is to understand your current community leaders. So I think looking at who is already out there in the community and what are they doing, and maybe they're your inspiration, they're your idol, and it's okay to emulate other people. I think there's a saying, imitation is the best form of flattery, or something like that. So I think it's okay to look at people as examples, and that's really how successful people do things as well. They look at what people have done before them and they try to copy and they try to refine as well. So understanding your current community leaders and seeing what they're doing, and maybe you can see what you can maybe do differently as well, and where the gaps are within your community, and that will kind of help you define your personal brand and where you want to get to in your professional career as well. So tip number 4 is identify where you can make an impact. So when we look at community leadership, and in particular the MVP program, what we really look at when people apply for the MVP award is where are they making an impact? How are they making a difference? And if you want to be known as a community leader, I think you have to bring something to the table and to the community. And it could be training a particular audience on a skill, or maybe you're really passionate about diversity and inclusion, and that sort of forms the content or the community work that you do, or the personal branding messages that you want to put out there. So I think looking at where you want to make an impact will help you sort of take you on that direction with your professional journey and your brand as well. So tip number 5 is deliver value, but deliver it consistently. So another thing that I've noticed within the MVP community and community leadership is it's about maintaining your community in a healthy way and engaging with your network constantly. Because if you want to be perceived as a thought leader or something like that, you need to be showing up in your community, or maybe with recruiters, for example, if your dream job is your goal. So being consistent is so important, because you'll actually then probably naturally, organically grow your audience as well. And that can help you with your career opportunities too. So delivering value, knowing your audience, and delivering the right value to your audience, and doing that consistently, I think is really important. So another area that I've seen our MVPs do a lot is they know their contribution channels. So they know when they, put themselves out there in the community, and they're showcasing their skills. They're doing it in a way that is comfortable to them. So everyone's got different ways that they want to contribute and be seen, or help the community in different ways. So identify what channels you want to do that on, and it's also knowing your audience and knowing what channel they're on as well, and aligning that with your skills and your passion, because there's no point of wanting to be a YouTube content creator and helping people that way if you really don't like talking to a camera and editing videos, or things like that. So you've got to find things that you're really passionate about. And so maybe you just want to do public speaking and you speak at conferences instead of doing a whole YouTube channel. So yeah, just thinking of ways that you can leverage platforms that you can leverage to be able to showcase your personal brand. And another point is really important is being authentic. And when it comes to personal brand, you're building a relationship with your audience, or whoever you're trying to influence as part of your personal brand. So being authentic, because it's about building trust with the audience or your community. And if you're putting yourself out there in a really personable way, then you will connect with people, and they'll naturally want to follow you, and they look up to you, and they trust what you're saying. And I think as a thought leader and a community expert in a particular area, trust is so important. So always being authentic. And I think as well, it takes a lot of energy to be always out there in the community and working on your personal brand. So you want to do things that makes your heart sing in a way. So focusing on areas that you enjoy, and that's where authenticity can also come in as well. And then my final tip is around lean into your community, share and collaborate. So I think when it comes to branding and community leadership and maybe thinking about where you want to go in your career journey, if you collaborate with other people, then you're growing your network, you're building a profile for yourself, and by collaborating, maybe you'll get referrals from other people, and it could help you in those future opportunities. So yeah, leaning in on a community is so important because you can't do it alone. You've really got to leverage the power of people and community. So this kind of brings me to our MVP program, which I just briefly want to touch on. But the MVP program or award is Microsoft's way of saying thank you to our community leaders that are doing exceptional impact in the community. And they all do it in their own unique ways. And I'll go through some examples in the next slide. But yeah, this is our way of really recognizing the great work that people are doing as a volunteer role, essentially, outside of their job. So MVPs are known for their passion for the community. They've got this community spirit and just this love for wanting to help people. And they've got this dedication to sharing knowledge and helping solve problems. By sharing their knowledge, people will learn new skills and be able to make their own positive impact as well on whatever they're working on. And MVPs are really authentic. They use their own they create their own content or share information that is in their own voice. And so they are recognized for that, and they're really authentic in how they deliver that. So and they do that also. They're at the heart and at the cutting edge of the latest products and innovations of Microsoft as well. So they've got that passion to want to be at the forefront. So yeah, I think there's some great characteristics with MVPs. And when we look at personal branding, I think a lot of those characteristics stem from being in a personal branding, delivering personal brand. So when we talk about, what are the areas where MVPs are helping? What platforms are they on, or what content are they creating? This is kind of some examples, and it might inspire you because maybe you're thinking about, okay, maybe you do want to be nominated for an MVP award, or maybe you want to pivot careers, or you've got a dream job that you want to get. Maybe if you invest in some ways to develop your personal brand, then your potential employer will see this content. You'll be positioning yourself as a thought leader in this space, and it will definitely open up opportunities. So ways that you can create impact through your personal brand. There's so many different avenues, but some examples, like just being on social media and posting on LinkedIn, when you attend events, sharing maybe your 3 top learnings from that event and tag those people that you learnt from, and then you'll organically build your community. People will see that, they'll be inspired, you're making an impact. The person that maybe you learnt from you're making them feel positive as well, and because they were able to touch someone as well. So that's one way. I've got other examples here where you can do maybe mentoring. You can be a mentor or you can be a mentee. It can go either way, but I think that could really help you develop your professional career, and you can really leverage skills and learn new skills through that process of mentoring or being a mentee as well. You can organize events and build your own community. So maybe you're seeing gap in the community and you're thinking, hey, I wish I had this type of community where we can talk about this. Or maybe you're starting a blog and because you're recognizing that maybe someone's asking you all these questions and you want to maybe jot them down and then share those learnings or your thought process with other people, and you do that in the form of a blog, and then you want to share that blog on LinkedIn, for example. So yeah, there's so many different ways. I'll just call out some more. You can give product feedback. You can be in the forums and sharing, helping answer questions. You can host a podcast and have conversations with people, maybe interview them about their career journey or things like that. Yeah, there's so many different ways. And I know we've got MVPs on the call here today that are doing some of these things. And I guess the important thing is with the MVP award, when we look at what we look for in when we recognize MVPs, is there is no one size fits all. So everyone is so unique in how they share and how they help people. But I guess our MVPs might focus on 1 to 3 of these of one of these areas, about 3 max, I think, and they do those really well. And so by doing that consistently and being authentic, they're able to sort of lean in on that personal brand and then showcase what they have to offer to the community. So I think, yeah, just a few more slides actually. So one area that we look at is what impact can you make if you want to go for the MVP award, or if you want to build your personal brand. Yeah, look at where are the gaps in the community that you want to fill, and you want to be positioned as that thought leader or that next person in the community. And lastly, these are our awards as part of the program that you can be awarded in. And because we're in the Power Platform and Dynamics 365 meetup today, if you are interested, you want to be looking at the Biz Apps category as well. And you can go to that link and you can find out more information. But I'm also here to help with any questions. So you can, I'll put my email address in the chat, so you can email me, you can find me on LinkedIn, and we can have some conversations as well. And I can get into more details around how the nomination works, and I can really sort of tailor our chat to your conversation and where your passions lie as well. So we can sort of nut out a bit of a plan if this is something that you're interested in. So I will leave you with these words. It's a quote. Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. And I know for me, outside of work, I do have passion projects where I like to create. And I think when it comes to branding and community leadership and thinking about your career journey and where you want to take it, you definitely have to create those opportunities for yourself, because no one else will be doing that. But I hope that has inspired you all. And yeah, if there's any questions, please let me know.
Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth. Lots of information, and it's pretty much most of them we can relate it ourselves. And like, no matter whether we are already MVP or not, no matter where we are in our career, I'm pretty sure there's something always to take, something to work on with all those inputs. And yeah, I'm just gonna go through the recording once again after I aggregate it and gonna use it as a reference for a few areas that I need to really work on. I believe pretty much others will be feeling the same. And I want to thank you so much again for sharing your insights on the personal branding and about MVP. Yeah, there are lots of questions and doubts around MVP for most of us who was starting the journey, I believe, and then that really helps them to uh, consider that. And if there's any more questions, please feel free to drop here. Or you can reach out to Elizabeth as well. I've shared her social media profile, Twitter profile, and LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
Feel free to connect and reach out to her if anything required. And anything from you, Golaknath and Sanjeev, before I pass it to Sanjeev?
Folks, actually, since Elizabeth is here, kindly feel free, don't feel shy, kindly unmute and ask folks, because this opportunity is rare.
Mm,
Yeah.
I'm sure I've gone through the program, and there were a whole bunch of us who actually were at the same time going through the program. I can tell you behind the scenes, there were people couldn't sit straight. They were like, oh my God, MVP, MVP. I mean, every second word was MVP. And for Elizabeth to make time, it's almost midnight for her to come in and actually talk about this. I have a few questions myself, but please feel this is for you folks. I'm sure many of you are interested, in the program. So kindly feel free to ask. If you're shy, please use the chat window. Kindly ask away. You're not going to get this opportunity uh, too often. This is fantastic. Extremely kind of you, Liz, for making time for us. So folks,
thank
kindly,
you.
please feel free. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
If
wish I
there's
had
any
this.
questions, let me know. But maybe while we get questions coming in, maybe Sanjeev, Golaknath, or Jiva, you can talk about any tips that you have or you found.
Sure, actually, before the tips part, as well, just on your presentation, I mean, what was amazing to me was the intersection between your personal brand and the MVP, as to how actually the MVP can help build your personal brand or like take you to another level, that maybe you didn't have before. Um, and it's interesting. I mean, depending on where you are, right? MVP itself can be a brand on a person.
Yeah.
So yeah, so do you have any observations on that? And depending on where people are in their lives, as to how the MVP program has impacted them, you know?
That's a great question. And I guess Microsoft doesn't go out and say you need to build a personal brand in order to be in the MVP program. So I want to make that clear.
Right.
So this is, I guess, me putting on my marketing hat. I've been in this role for 1 year, and I guess I'm seeing the themes now, and I'm labeling it personal brand. But um, if we want to put some structure behind how we get, if the goal is, you might have a personal goal. I want to be an MVP, or I want to be recognized for my community leadership. If we put a
Mhm.
strategy behind it, that's what I call, personal brand. So um, we don't judge people on a personal brand per se, but these are the themes, and that's kind of what I'm labeling it. But I definitely
Mhm.
think the brand, yeah, so personal brand, as how I started the presentation, it's an asset that you own. And we have personal brands with our family, with our sporting groups, with our, spiritual groups. You have a personal brand everywhere you go. And
Right.
it's something that we don't always think about, but we actually have it.
Yep.
And I think, as you said, Sanjeev, MVP is, I think, a personal brand that uh, especially I've observed, our community is so passionate about what they do, the MVP community. And I think a lot of people, I see them aspiring to this award because of the opportunities it presents. And there's not, once you're awarded, there's career opportunities, I guess, because you might be maybe consulting. It might help you get more clients because essentially Microsoft has endorsed your expertise.
Right.
And we validated that because you create blogs and you host events, or you are a public speaker. So I think that's where professionals can really leverage that MVP brand in their career,
Mhm.
and opportunities there. Um, you also get, your MVP profile on a Microsoft website. So that gives credibility if you're looking for jobs and you want to grow in your career as well. And you also get access to Microsoft's product teams, and maybe there's events that you speak at as well. And I think all those can definitely create opportunities and help with your network. Yeah, so yeah, I think there's so much potential. And the program, once you get awarded, it's really how you make it as well. So it's about being proactive, and just how you build your personal brand. That's a proactive thing. Once awarded as well, I think it's about being proactive in taking on opportunities, and yeah, just putting yourself out there in the community so you can leverage that MVP brand for yourself and for the benefit of the community as well, I think, essentially.
Right. Outstanding. I mean, I think we have live examples here. Jiva is a classic example of, I suppose, how his career path kind of changed or took off, shall I
Yeah,
say,
I'd love
Jiva,
to
based
hear.
on
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, please
yeah.
share.
Yeah, it comes of time. I'll just make it quicker. Yeah, when I moved to Singapore like 5 years back, just moved it as a senior developer, then lead consultant, and then solution architect. That's being the designation side of it. But yeah, the idea is
Mm,
definitely MVP gave me that personal contacts and network, and also I'd say there are lots of opportunities or gates that basically open where it helped me to look for the information and access to the information, and basically it really motivated me as well, because we're working with lots of like-minded people who tend to working with all the latest releases. And then even though in certain cases you might not really have had a chance to work with the latest product
mm,
features, in especially in certain region like Singapore, where you have most of them from government projects. But still, like these kind of events and activities really help me to do that, and that really helped me to get explore more. And then eventually I landed up in Auckland, anyways. But there are lots of things, I would say, benefits, and the top one I would still say relatively is that I got great friends and
mm.
contacts and network, and that will be my first biggest thing that I earned out of MVP
That's
program. Everything else follows after that.
that's lovely. The
Yeah.
power of
Wow.
community. And what I realize is people are at the heart of community. So I
Yes.
think
Right.
just keeping that personalized approach, I think, is really important. Yeah, and being approachable as well. And yeah, I think the community will definitely lean in and help and support one another
Yeah.
when needed. So yeah, there's definitely lots of benefits.
Yeah, you won't be
Outstanding.
surprised when you reach out to people whom we might think they might be busy, or they are so senior, they have
Mm,
been MVP for program for years. They might not respond to us. I've thought like that, and refined from reaching out to them certain extent. But then I broke that, and then I started reaching out to folks, and it's amazing to see how open they are and helpful they are, including Sanjeev and Golaknath. Right, Sanjeev was quite in a big designation at that point of time in Microsoft. Like, okay, Sanjeev, like it's a whole history behind that. But yeah,
mm.
like how we started the whole community in Singapore. But yeah, it's so amazing to see people how humble they are, really. When it comes to when you really reach out to them, and you can see how humble they are
Yeah.
and how helpful they are. Yeah.
And there's so much opportunity there is, I think, a very strong need in Power Platforms and Dynamics 365. There are so many people that want skills.
Yeah.
And if
Right.
you position yourself as that thought leader and you're willing to help others in their professional development to like learn those skills, I think, yeah, there is just so much opportunity. So I think you're all in a very important area. And yeah, there's huge opportunity. I see there's a hand up from Pavan.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hello.
Thanks for your presentation. It's great. So I'm aspiring to be an MVP. I'm a
Great.
passionate blogger. So I used to write blogs mostly on Power Platform,
Mm-hmm.
and I just want to know a bit of how MVP program is it because of greater reach to the audience, or how it will be like if suppose it should be from different channels, or
Yep.
which channel will reach greater number of audience, on what basis you will be awarding MVP?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and good on you for starting to be creative and jot down your blog and your thoughts and your teachings for others. I think that's fantastic. So keep that up. In terms of what we look for when recognizing a community leader, we look at exceptional contributions in the community. So what do we mean by exceptional? We look at different areas of impact that's been made. One area of impact can be looked at by who are you helping in the community. So everyone's different, but maybe you're helping a really niche community. Maybe you're doing something in a local language that no one else has done yet. And so that could be one area of impact that you're doing. Or maybe it's a particular niche in terms of like a vertical or industry that you're supporting in those skills as well. So yeah, look at your audience and who you're helping and how you can meet their needs. We do look at your reach and who's looking at your who are you helping essentially, and how many people. So if you're just doing generic content and it's on YouTube, for example, we do look at sort of who's reading and watching your videos, for example. But if you're doing something in local language that's very sort of niche and the impact will be very different compared to someone who's doing an English speaking content to a wider audience. Like their net is cast wider, if you know what I mean. So we try to put things into context as well, and there is no one size fits all. So we look at who are you helping, what needs are you meeting in that community, and then I think healthy community is really important too. So what does that look like? Are you contributing in a consistent way? Are you helping answering their questions? So we look at sort of community health as well. And also we look at the last 12 months of what you do. So I had someone that was nominated just the other day, and they only submitted 4 months worth of content. And I felt like they were disadvantaging themselves because they weren't giving themselves that full opportunity to really showcase their impact, their significant impact, because it was just based on the last 4 months. So I said to them, I think it's time that we just reapply when the 12 months hit, because then you could showcase more, and we could sort of have a better understanding of your impact as a community leader over that 12 months. So and lastly as well, it's all unpaid work that you're doing. So it has to be outside of your job, and it has to be really community content focused. So we kind of look at those areas. There is no one particular platform that you need to be doing your if you're doing blogging, that's great. But I guess my only tip for that is look at ways that you could, if you're blogging, maybe look at how you could share your blog on another platform, maybe in a community group on Facebook or maybe on LinkedIn, and that will help with your reach as well. So we don't want you to recreate content all the time, but look at, okay, you've got that one piece of content. This is the core message from that piece of blog. How can you maximize the reach so you can help as many people as you can? So try to be a little bit smart, work smarter in those ways as well, instead of working harder, essentially. So yeah, there's different ways that you could leverage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the great insights. Thank
Yeah,
you.
fantastic. So feel free to reach out when you feel like you've got enough consistent contributions, and then I could sort of walk with you through the process, and we could see if you're ready to be nominated, or maybe I'll have some more tips for you to refine, but I can definitely work with you. So maybe just send me an email and we can connect. And nominations will actually be closing very soon, because we're about to start our existing MVP nominations for next year. So we pause for a while because we go through about 3,500 existing MVPs and we go through their contributions. So it will be paused. And we traditionally open it up in July, but there might be a bit of a delay with that because we're also changing systems once our MVPs are renewed in July. So I'm thinking maybe around October nominations will reopen. So maybe that's a good sort of goal. Maybe we reconnect around then, and then you might have built up a lot of contributions. But always happy to help if you have any questions before then as well.
Yay.
Great.
Anyone else, folk? I saw Mr. Gopal there wanting to say something. Gopal, are you?
Yeah, hi. Thanks a lot. This was a wonderful session, and it's my first session actually. Actually, in my current
Fantastic.
projects,
Welcome.
in my current work, I'm using Power Platform and Azure technologies. So I was introduced to Azure platform through a pilot program in my company. So looking forward to working with you all and contribute a lot. Yeah.
Fantastic. Welcome, and thank you for joining. And if you're inspired by community leadership and wanting to help others, yeah, more than happy to connect.
Sure. Will do. Will do,
Thank
Elizabeth.
you.
Super, anyone else, folk? Anyone else? Any thoughts? Golak, you've been extremely silent, man. You've been really quiet. Any words from you? You're a newly minted MVP. How does it feel to be in the limelight or halo?
Yeah,
And
hi everyone. Yeah, Elizabeth, you were saying something?
I was going to say, Golden, I think your journey took a bit longer maybe
Yeah,
than some people. And I think it's important that we
yeah,
sort of explain that you don't always get recognized straight away. Sometimes
yeah.
there's some refining that needs to be done, or feedback, because I assess the applications, but then we also have the product group assessing and the business group. So sometimes it's not always up to one person, and it's a subjective assessment. And sometimes it does take some persistence. But I love that Goloknath never gave up.
Yay. That's indeed true. 3 cheers.
Was there anything else you wanted to say?
Uh,
Sorry.
and no, nothing else actually. Anyways, it's really a great feeling actually after being an MVP. And first of all, most important thing is you will get the network, a lot of friends actually in the circle, and along with that you have good reachability to the product team also. You will get that's one of the benefit what I can see. So basically, yeah, it's worth actually what Elizabeth mentioned. So you guys anyone can reach out to Elizabeth, and definitely we are also here. If anybody wants any suggestions or guidance, definitely we can do. This is what I can say.
Fantastic.
Excellent. The one for me, there are 3 things. One is the opportunity to put yourself out there and then speak. Oftentimes people are so reticent, they hold themselves back, they're so scared of public speaking. You can clear those fears very easily. Now that we have opened up as well post COVID and we have physical events, it becomes even more important. If you're aspiring for leadership roles, the one thing you have to do is communicate and communicate well. And this is a fantastic platform where your bosses are not looking over your shoulders to come in and practice that. And when you take technical topics and try to communicate them, you got to be really smart because you can get into the weeds very easily and lose your audience, right? So this is an outstanding platform to develop that one skill, beyond anything else. Then from I really appreciated that personal branding thing because you got to be very careful with it. if you're in if you're knocking on the doors of senior leadership within your IT, be careful because there is a chance, depending on how you position yourself online, that you may be branded as just that, only that technical person who is a deep developer who just does that and nothing else, you know. So you got to be a little careful as to how you brand yourself while you're, with the MVP program. And if you use it smartly, you will actually come across as that affable, crazy scientist that everybody wants to be with, you know. Now, that's an interesting branding because then you become closer to what's his name? What's his name, man? The Apple guy. Oh my God. It's so crazy. This is what MVP does to you and everything Microsoft, and you forget about Satya. Let's take Satya as an example.
Okay.
Satya is a classic example of a deeply technical guy who has that business, background as well, right? And how he has been able to position himself that way. So that's a way if you're aspiring towards technical leadership to go that way. If you want to, so you got to be a bit careful, is what I would say from my own personal experience. And the third thing, like Jiva said, is that just that opportunity to give back. I mean, people have been kind to us. It is time for us to be kind back and to lend a hand to people, connect people if they're looking for jobs. Let us say there are many MVPs who have gone into Microsoft. We know of 3 people here right within Singapore who are now in Tanjong Pagar working for Microsoft. So, the MVP program introduces them, and as they go interview with Microsoft and they say that MVPs, and especially if you're a customer success architect kind of roles, you'll definitely get, or customer engineer roles, you'll definitely get picked up if you, are reasonably savvy there. So these are 3 things that came out from my side as tips, but really appreciated Elizabeth's personal branding thing, and I got to keep thinking about that. I have a funny story there. I do all these because I have a mechanical engineering background. I do all these things with devices. And then there's one kid who is like 22 called me up one day on LinkedIn, and I said, sure, we can have a call. And back then in my LinkedIn profile, I used to say, use the delight with Microsoft technology. That's it. There was nothing else on my, thing. And then he said, you're my age. You're like 23, 24. How come you do all this like crazy stuff? And I said, like, look, I'm more like your dad's age. I'm like, I just turned 50 a couple months ago. And he was like, you are my dad's age. My dad is 50. I was like, oh my God, where do I go hide? And then immediately I turned around and put every single designation I could find, MVP, MCT, MBA, MS, this, that, and the other. So much so that some of the people who look at my profile, the senior guys, start laughing. And I said, like, hey, it's not for you. It's actually for the 22-year-old kid who called me. Or anyway, folks, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you. 3 cheers to Elizabeth and Jiva. Thank you very much for staying with us this late and then entertaining us with exactly what the program is and the importance of personal branding. Uh, Please feel free to reach out. And here's the other thing, unashamedly aspire to be an MVP. It's okay. Say, I want to be an MVP. There is nothing wrong with it. Don't be shy, modest, all that. Once you're a multi-millionaire like Mr. Trump, you can try to be modest. Until then, go for it. Right, Elizabeth, bug you, right, with the MVP program? Let's go, guys. Yep, let's go.
Certainly.
Yeah, thanks again. Like I don't know how it's been like 15 minutes since we started the session. That really flies, time flies really fast. And because it was such an interesting topic and very useful topic and content that we discussed for everyone. I'm not sure that we are considering the time. I'm not sure that we can have a second session today. Um, but again, if I leave it to the audience, if
I'll
you
tell
guys
you
think
what I'm
it's
going to talk about. Maybe I can come in and do a session. Is that okay, Jiva? I'll just walk you through what I wanted to show you guys.
perfect, sir. That will be fine. And also, there is an announcement from Golaknath at the end of the session about an next week big event, a global event that's going to happen in Singapore at Microsoft Office. So stay tuned. And again, thank you so much, Elizabeth and everyone. Over to you, Sanjeev.
Yeah. Yay. My camera, I realized is I've got the other camera going. Anyway, so the focus here was actually on frontline workers, folks. So let me actually do this really quickly. What is a frontline worker and why should you care about these people, right? So if I were to go to my, how do you say, browser, I've got our famous chat GPT here. Jiva, can you see my screen? You can, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore this. It's going to go away in a second. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say uh, top three frontline worker profiles. See, that's why I need AI in the logistics industry, right? Top three frontline worker profiles in the logistics industry. Well, people who work in the warehouse as a warehouse associate. They are responsible for receiving, organizing, and shipping products within a warehouse. Truck drivers, right? These are the guys who actually drive the semi trucks from, city to city, and they go to warehouse, inbound, outbound, and deliver, right? Delivery drivers, these could be going from a warehouse location over to the location of a customer, which may not actually be the end location, right? So as you look at these people, they are truly, and likewise, if you go to healthcare, you have nurses, you have medical technicians, you have doctors, so on and so forth. If you go to banking, right, you have tellers in a bank, you have customer service representatives, you have loan officers, all these guys who are actually in front of us customers day in and day out are frontline workers, right? And some of them we have seen literally every day, right? So they actually constitute about 60 to 80% of an organization. If you go to a logistics place, if you go to SingPost, who are basically postal service and logistics, as well, you will find that 60 to 80% are these kind of people who are basically the last mile between us customers and then the organization. So they contribute a lot in terms of, their efforts go towards increasing the revenue. If you're in a bank, customer service is super important. They provide the warm blanket to the banks. And when you go to logistics, these warehouse people, truck drivers, if there is efficiency with these people, you can make a lot of margins, right? A lot of money, right? So they are supremely important and they're 80% of the organization, right? So we need to cater to these people, right? So here, if I say, what are the top three KPIs or metrics, shall I say, of truck drivers, right? Of truck drivers. This is going to go away and actually show you three metrics. This is ChatGPT is incredible, especially if you're a business consultant. On time delivery, right? Absolutely important, right? It every second counts. Fuel efficiency. When you're driving so much, every little drop of oil or your gas counts. Safety, it is super important, for the driver himself or herself, as well as the cargo to be, extremely efficient with safety, right? I mean, very, very important. You could use millions and millions of dollars if you're unsafe and if your incidents increase, right? So, given these people are so important, it is very important for us who are in the technical industry to cater to their needs, to increase fuel efficiency, to help with on time delivery, to improve the safety records, right? So, when it comes to safety, as an example, how can we actually help, right? So take a scenario where you're in the facilities, right, in a warehouse, and it's, it could be like, hundreds of feet tall. And there could be equipment that is actually way up there that could actually not be accessible to these frontline workers. So they may actually have to climb all the way up, right, to do inspections. Well, guess what? That's where we come in and we actually help out, right? So if I were to go over to this whole setup here, what I have on the left-hand side is my phone. So I'll do this for a minute, a couple minutes, and I'll stop, right? So I have my phone here. I have my camera here pointing to this drone here. Then on the right-hand side, I have teams in which me and Golopnath and Jiva, who are all frontline workers who are in a warehouse, our team is this team here called the FLW Frontline Worker Team, right? So what we're trying to do is not put ourselves in harm's way, but let the drone be the extension of us, right? So the drone actually flies over to the top of the building inside the warehouse by the roof. and there is equipment there, it is basically going to take a picture of that as routine inspection, and then it's going to actually send us an image on Teams, right? So this is identified as drone ABC123. So there is a master table of drones. So this particular drone is ABC123. And then it is in zone 3, in this case of a bridge, right? So it's flown up to a particular point in a bridge, and it's done a routine inspection, and it's basically given us a picture of the actual, zone. And then it's given some parameters surrounding the drone. What is the height? What is the speed? What is the battery life of the drone? So on and so forth. So any one of us who are part of this team, when they get this card, when we get this card, we can say, hey, look, it looks like there is something going on over here. There is some extra grease that's leaking or whatever. We need intervention, right? So that is the scope of what I was actually going to do, is basically going to go over to my Power Apps over here, and then going over to my application. And then in this application, basically going to go fly this drone, flight up to a certain point, take a picture of it over here, and then actually get metrics as well, the drone metrics, and save this information. And once I save it, the information then flows to Teams for us who are frontline workers to actually see, so that we can take appropriate action. Okay, so this was the presentation I was actually going to make. I'll stop here. What we'll do, folk, is maybe not this time, obviously, given we are up on time, but for the next time, we are going to go make this presentation, right? The Global Platform Bootcamp is on the 24th, on Friday, next Friday at Microsoft. I don't believe I'll be able to present it there because we already have the speakers set up. But for the following month, we'll just have one session perhaps, and I'll do maybe an hour-long session on this one because it's got many, many components. It is not exactly trivial. So we'll cover off the different, things that comprise this solution. Okay. Once again, thank you very, very much for an enjoyable session. Huge thanks. I don't know if Elizabeth is still with us. It looks like she has actually dropped off. Jiva, are you there?
Yes, sir.
I think Jiva is there. So I think I'll pass it over to Jiva to say a few kind words and close the session.
Thank you so much again, Sanjeev. Again, another great session with your gadgets, and then this time targeting the one of the most demanding targeted audience in any organization, the frontline workers. I really appreciate, trying to squeeze in those complex content into 10 minutes, and made it easy for us to understand. And again, thank you everyone for joining today. I hope the sessions were quite useful. And I'll pass it to Golaknath, and with that, we'll close the today's session. He'll be basically, he has shared the image in the chat, but I'll let him to talk more about that, about the Global Film Bootcamp.
Yeah. Thank you, Sanjeev, and thank you, Jiva. And really thankful to Sanjeev to wrap up the session within last 10 minutes, but it's really required a lot of time. So we are looking forward to next session from Sanjeev, that's for sure. And thanks again, Jiva, for waiting so late. I feel now it is 1 a.m. for you, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, I think we'll wind up very soon. So this is what I can say. Actually, we have upcoming event. You guys can see the banner in the chat window I shared. So whoever based out of Singapore, definitely they can join our session in the Microsoft Office. You guys can actually, if you want to know more details, just scan the QR code. You will know where is the venue and all other things, and you can register for the event. And as it is a hybrid mode, even though you are not based out of Singapore, still you can join online mode, even virtual also we are doing. So welcome everyone to join the session and learn. It's a very good lineup of speakers we have. That's all from my end.
Is food and beverage provided, Golaknath?
Sorry.
Is food and beverages provided?
Yes. Foods and all things arranged there actually. We are doing 9:30 to 3 p.m. So yeah, food we already arranged.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
With that,
Cheers.
I want to say thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining from different corners of the places. And over to Sanjeev and Jiva. Anything you want to say, and we'll wind up or else.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Jiva.
Bye.
Staying up so late, but cheers.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.